All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of D-Pod. We're doing our new grad series right now. So we have Luke Walker in the studio. Hello, Luke.
What's going on?
Nice. Welcome back, man. It's been a while.
I'm happy to be here. This is my first time in the new recording space.
The new recording space, my E-Loft office that I stole from Kevin. Nice. I think your last one, was it the one with Luke and Neil? Or oh no, we did one more recently where we talked about like...
it was me, Neil, and Lauren.
Yeah. And
we did the doubles, like the moving to downtown and the SLT.
Yeah. That's when you guys were kind of low-key complaining to me about how we moved out of Hyde Park, basically. Maybe not low-key, actually.
I think I tried to be as upfront as I could about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Well, man, things have changed since then. I mean, you're one of the new grads in our ministry. You became a member after you graduated, but still in grad school, still at UChicago,
Maroons.
repping the Maroons.
And I will be next year too with the job offer that I accepted.
Oh yes, why don't you tell us about your job offer that you got?
Yeah, so I'm going to be an admissions counselor at UChicago. So going out, part of it is like recruitment, talking to high schools and stuff, pitching UChicago and I guess higher education in general. And then I don't know, the part that I'm like, wow, am I qualified for this is that I'll be reading applications and help writing reports on them and helping decide who gets
that's
in.
Crazy.
And then like running programs for prospective students and stuff. So that starts this summer.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, man, you'll have a lot of access to incoming students, which is awesome. So not that we have any ulterior motives there,
You evil right hand rubbing right now.
Dude, let's talk about grad school real quick. I just want to pick your brain on that, how that's been. So first of all, what is like your, grad students don't, are always busy and also don't have much money. So what's like your current go-to meal? Like you just need to quickly just get some calories. Like what's your go-to meal right now? Yeah.
So I'll run next door to 237, the other Single Bros apartment in Sawmill, and steal a bunch of their food because everyone there has jobs, and so they usually have
food,
either leftovers or
and your apartment doesn't have any food.
Hal will cook, but it's me and Josie. So sometimes Ruben has leftover picanha. End up sorry, I'm taking all the good stuff.
That's great.
Yeah, and if I don't do that, then I've been on protein bars that buy them in bulk, and then protein bars, grab and go. That's pretty solid with good 0 calories, zero sugar soda.
Nice.
So I feel like I'm like, oh yeah, nice soda, but it's not actually that. The science is always changing. It's not that bad. And then the next article says it's going to give you cancer.
So so just for people who don't know, so you said 237, but you live in 240.
Yeah.
And so these are two apartments in our apartment complex at Sawmill. So you guys are like 3 doors down from each other.
Yeah. Just around the corner.
Just around the corner. Yeah. So that's really cool. Glad you're able to steal some of their food. I'll make sure to remind them to keep their fridge stocked for you. Refrigerator
rights.
Yeah, refrigerator rights. Okay, so you have the perspective of having gone to UChicago for undergrad at college, and then now you're part of UChicago grad, right?
Yes.
So were there any differences between those? Like, do you sense a cultural shift at all? Like having been part of those, technically they're different institutions, like within UChicago, right? So like what difference have you experienced if at all?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is kind of just, I guess, assumed with grad schools. Like the makeup is very different. A lot of the people who are in my program I was actually surprised by the amount of old people, older than you, people
but in grad school.
Yeah, grad school.
They're coming back for a second degree or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been surprised by the amount of people there. And then, so my program, it's a 4+1. So I applied to it last year, got accepted kind of like a continuation. So
right.
I already have my undergrad degree, but it's a 4+1. So there's a decent amount of people like that, but there's probably only 1/3 of I guess my cohort, I guess is the best way to describe it. And then there's also, a good chunk of people who are just younger, out of a different school or things like that.
Oh,
but
I see. Yeah.
There's, I guess, less of a shared sort of collective, we're in this together kind of mentality. I mean, UChicago's big in the dorms, the house system and things like that, and house culture and those different types of things. And then everyone in undergrad, you're going through the core and its challenges and all that sort of ideal. And so I guess there's less of unity among grad students in a sense, because also too it's just a 1-year master's program. So I'm not with the grad student union or fighting to unionize for PhD workers. That's not really me. So there's that disconnect. Not that I don't know, because I just graduated, I still have plenty of friends and I still feel part of the UChicago community, and in a lot of my classes there's undergrads too, but there's not really that same sense of yeah, like, and I think that's too, just it's grad school versus undergrad, like, you know, living on campus, that also, you know, off campus now, and how that's changed.
Yeah. A little bit less of a shared experience, I guess.
Yeah.
So do you have friends from undergrad who are in this program, or like people you know from undergrad?
Yeah. One of my good friends who is in my improv group, she's also doing the program.
Okay,
we have slightly different concentrations, so we haven't really overlapped with any classes. And then I know a couple other friends from undergrad who are doing like 4+1 or like 4+2 in different departments. So I have like some friends who are at Booth now, the School of Business at UChicago, and other programs like that. So my program, it's so stupid. I'm going to rant about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's with the Division of the Arts and Humanities, which recently combined because all their money got taken. But the program is the Master of Arts program in the Humanities, which is a mouthful. And so like UChicago and like X2 likes to, we make, you know, acronyms for things. And so it's MAPH, which everyone calls math. Whenever I say I'm doing math, everyone thinks it's the TH. It's the complete opposite to like anything I did.
You can't pronounce math. Yeah, we're doing math.
Yeah, but it's so funny too, because they're like, oh, you studied media arts and design in undergrad, now you're doing math. And so I like always have to spell it out because it feels weird otherwise. Because then like I'll be talking about my program, then everyone like has a confused look when I talk about the essays that I'm writing. Like, oh, that's very experimental. I'm like, no, Master of Arts program in the Humanities. And I think we got to get a better name for it. I don't know what the better name is, but
honestly,
I'll
it should just be Humanities.
That's what it is.
It's a Master in Humanities.
Yeah.
Master of Arts. And I mean, because no one said, like, I don't say I got a Masters of Science in Industrial Engineering Operations Research.
No, you don't. You don't.
Yeah, we just say, oh, I'm in industrial engineering or whatever. Like, you just, whatever the actual topic is. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so you know, when I did I did a 4+1 too back in Berkeley, and we had I can't remember. I think it was 6 of us. 6 of us went from our undergrad program to that graduate program, and so I remember there was a lot of camaraderie there. Partially also because we realized that our undergrad program like totally did not prepare us for the rigors of a master's level engineering program that was taking classes with PhD students from like, you know, China and India, and we were just getting destroyed.
So those are the real.
It was crazy. Yeah, we were like, oh, we didn't learn anything as undergrads. Okay, like, oh my gosh, we thought we were good students, but yeah. Anyways, it was very humbling, but it was nice to have some friends that went through undergrad together, and we just survived that one year together, basically. Yeah. I mean, you made the decision to go to grad school in Chicago, and you know, obviously you're in Chicago. So kind of take us through. Let's go back to like your senior year. You're deciding what you want to do with your future. What were some of the what went into that decision? To some degree, like it might have been pretty self-explanatory because maybe you were planning on going to grad school. I mean, that was the case for me. Like that first year, it's sort of, I knew I wanted to get a master's degree, so it was no brainer to take the 4+1. But were there other factors in that, or like kind of how did you think about it senior year?
Yeah, so that actually, I was the opposite. I actually didn't really think I was gonna do grad school until December or January of senior year.
Yeah, I see.
It was pretty late in the game. And I mean, there were a couple of factors in that. I mean, one, like the job market's kind of not great. And so I was like, you know, like kind of thinking about that, and I was like, you know, this would be a good opportunity. And then also too, I had conversations with my dad talking about, you know, my future and things like that. You know, as any good dad should, you know, watch out for his boy.
Sure.
And he had, you know, talked about how there were opportunities in college that he wished he took that he ended up not doing. Like there was, you know, opportunity to do like a similar thing and get a master's, or there was like this program in DC that he got into, but he felt like, oh, it would have been like too much money, and so he didn't do it, and like he regretted doing that. And you know, this opportunity came up for the 4+1 program, and I was like, you know, when else am I going to be able to, you know, I'm not going to have like, you know, I guess sort of the timing, right? I'm fresh out of school. So, you know, the whole like student study mindset is still there.
Yeah.
And, you know, 1-year master's program, that's not typically, you know, like unless it's a 4+1, usually master's
like
programs are a couple years longer. Just like that made it cool. And then also just, I don't know, Master of Humanities, it's a pretty broad thing and pretty interesting stuff to study and talk about. And then, yeah, I mean, I'd be lying too if I didn't say, you know, it would feel cool to have a master's and be like, haha, mom, haha, dad, I have 1 more degree than you. But it's not really that cool because my brother's going to law school and he's going to graduate his law school before I finish this. So like, I'm not even they could just, well, look at your brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then also,
he outdid you already.
Right, exactly. That was always his plan. But then I was like, I got to get something.
You got to get something.
Yeah.
That's funny. You can go and get a second master's.
Maybe. Well, with my job at UChicago in the admissions office, if I want to go back for any master's, things like that, or future wife, if she wants to do anything like that, half off, like,
oh really,
like
at
massive
UChicago.
Price discount at UChicago.
Oh, wow, okay.
I'm assuming you still have to like apply to get in.
So
if you get in, and then I think too, any future children would, if I'm still there by the time.
So as long as you're working for the university. Oh yeah, that is a huge perk.
Or grad school
and
the lab school. Yeah,
and lab schools. Dude,
yeah,
that's crazy, man.
I was thinking about that, but then I was like, that's still so much money.
You can adopt my kids.
Oh yeah. What's the glow map on that though? If you send Emma and Lucas to
precedent. Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. So, oh shoot, what were we talking about?
Staying in Chicago.
Oh yeah, staying in Chicago.
Grad school.
Yeah. Did anything else go into that decision? I mean, aside from those things, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, beyond grad school, I guess in a bit of like to stay in Chicago. I mean, so my family's back home in California, but I grew up in a really small town there. Shout out Kalinga, California, the 559. But the town's only something like, it's like less than 20,000 people. And so unless I want to like go back and like teach at the high school or be a CO at like a state prison that's nearby or like work in the oil field, there's not much room for growth back there. And so like going back to like my hometown was, I kind of always assumed, I didn't always know I was going to go to Chicago, but I kind of always assumed that like that wasn't going to be the plan for me.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the fact that I was in Chicago was like, okay, maybe this is where it's going to be. But then also, I guess a bit of a secular perspective, I just love Chicago.
I mean, it's a nice city.
In general. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I always say like you never have an excuse to be bored if you're in Chicago. Like there's always something going on, always something cool.
Yeah.
Opening day of baseball season yesterday, the Cubs kind of got smacked, but we're hopeful for the rest of the season. Great sports and awesome food. Like even now, like toward like outside of this, even just kind of like Chicago land. I've been exploring that more and lots of good food. Shout out Galaxy Hot Pot. Galaxy Hot Pot and Grill. In Des Plaines. Yeah,
we love Galaxy.
Yeah. And then so I mean, love the city, super cool. I don't know. One of the things I would do all the time in undergrad, on like if I had like a free Saturday afternoon, I'd just take the train or shuttle into the city and just like walk around with like a podcast and just like look at all the buildings. Like walk down by the river and I don't know, like things like that. So I just love the city. And then I think a more relational aspect, like a lot of my friends were already staying here. So Neil, for example, was in a 5-year program from the start. And so I knew he was still going to be here. Aaron from Chicago, he had his job. Ola got a job here. And those are some of, like my good friends from undergrad and senior year. And then, I had a couple other, college friends who are still in town there. I guess there wasn't like a great big scattering of like all my people and everyone's going off in their different paths. I felt like a lot of them were staying in Chicago. And so that also just kind of seemed naturally to continue. Like it seemed natural for me to continue to be in Chicago. And then, I mean, I feel like it's obvious, I guess, in the context of Deep Out and our church, but I guess explaining to like friends and family back home. I think the impact of Voyage and now as a postgrad sort of Acts 2 in general and the community that I've been just blessed to be a part of here has really played into that. Just the relationships I've built, not only with friends, but, some of the, I guess mentors. I don't know. It's kind of weird now as a postgrad doing ministry alongside our mentors.
I mean, I guess friends. They're still your mentors. Mentors and friends.
I feel like you can always be mentored by somebody. So like those relationships too. And in practical sense too. Also, there weren't a lot of options. Like I said, going back home was never really something I considered. Like California, but I'm like, okay, what am I going to do there? I need to find a job there.
Like, and you would have to go to a new place.
I would. I was going to have to go to a new place anyway.
Yeah. Most likely, right? Yeah, that's interesting. And man, the thing about your friends, it really worked out well for you guys. I mean, it just so happened like Ola and Aaron got involved in our church senior year, and so the little coalition of just Luke and Neil doubled. And I saw you guys.
Max moved here too.
Yeah, Max moved here this past year. So man, it's been neat kind of seeing you guys kind of grow together, trying to figure out how to live postgrad life together. So this is a random question, but since you mentioned Chicago being a fun place to be in, let's say you have a car. So you're often borrowing people's cars. So you have someone's car down in Hyde Park. You're about to come back home, but you have an hour to kill. You have an hour to procrastinate.
An hour to kill.
Where are you stopping? Let's say it's today. Where are you stopping today to to just have some fun for an hour?
Did I get my reimbursement from my grad school loans? Do I have those, or is it at the end of the quarter and I have no money?
Let's say you have a budget of $20 for the $20 for the day.
$20. I probably because you got to think about parking if you have a car versus the train.
That's true.
I probably would.
Okay, let's say train. Whatever is most flexible for this question.
I would get the downtown campus connector from like Hyde Park.
Okay.
And I'd go up downtown and I would probably walk on the Riverwalk, touch all the weird stones that are in the Tribune Tower, like the stone they have from the pyramid of one of the pyramids of Giza.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, walk down back, and then I'd probably go to the Harry Potter store.
Okay, yeah.
It's cool to look at.
Yeah.
Probably not buy anything. Maybe get a butterbeer. And tell my mom, Luke, you wasted too much money on a butterbeer.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, mom.
How much is a butterbeer there?
Oh, okay. It's expensive. It's like $13.
Oh, really?
But it comes with a mug. It comes with a collectible
you get to keep the mug.
You get to keep the mug.
That's not bad then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a plastic mug though. Oh. So it kind of is.
Yeah.
But they've got the frosted and they got the hot one was in season.
Oh, yeah,
so. Yeah. Probably, just walk around downtown, enjoy the city. If the weather's nice, I would go to the lake.
Okay.
So I would probably go to like Promontory Point or any of like the downtown beaches.
I mean, I miss Promontory Point.
Yeah.
My first year here, I lived right across from it.
Oh, really?
We lived at Shoreland Apartments.
Oh, okay.
Which is literally the closest you can get to Promontory Point.
Was it one of the ones that like used to be a hotel and Al Capone used to go to?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But yeah. Oh, I should join you on that. I've actually not done those things. I didn't know about those stones. And I've never been to the Harry Potter store still.
Oh, yeah.
I've only been to the outside. Yeah.
In April, it will have been there for a year. So are you even a real Potterhead?
I know, dude. What's going on,
That's
man?
your generation, man.
Yeah, it's too far, dude. I'm too busy.
Fair enough. What are you, leading a church or something?
I know. What am I doing? What am I doing in my life?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. So, I guess what was hard about, coming back to your decision to stay in Chicago, I mean, part of what you did though is you decided to move to Martin Grove with the rest of the postgrads.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was kind of a hard decision, right? Because it's a really far commute. So what went into that decision? Like how did you think about that? Yeah, just curious.
Yeah, and that's a decision that I've gotten a lot of questions from my parents from and confused looks from other people about. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard. I mean, number one, like being far from family isn't easy, and so if I'm far from family but staying in Chicago, I really wanted to be a part of a community.
I see.
And that, for me, I want that to be my church community. And so I think with a bunch of people moving in and the church sort of moving out of Hyde Park, now being like one city church, combining with our Evanston team and, wanting to just kind of invest in the post-grad community here. Yeah. That was something I knew I wanted to be a part of. Yeah. Maybe if, I had like friends or family in Chicago, that would have been different, but it's just me out here. Yeah. And so that was one thing that I was like, that felt like a bit of a no-brainer to me. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely difficult too. I mean, Sawmill's, not the cheapest place to live too. Yeah. Especially I had a pretty good deal on an apartment, but I mean, it's almost way nicer than my apartment down in Hyde Park was. Sure. Yeah. I think just I'm, 98% extroverted on the, all the
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs is like a 98. And so I knew I wanted to be with people and be with friends. And so that was just kind of the natural, I guess, step for me. Now, I remember when we were first talking about it, last year, it was like, hey, DP, when I graduate, I'd love to, move in with the postgrads. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like we might be moving more north. There's a chance we stay in Hyde Park too. And is, kind of ambiguous. I was like, okay, yeah, like, oh, what, well, like, I don't know, downtown or up in Lakeview or something like that. And it's like Morton Grove. And I'm like, oh, I've never heard of that neighborhood. And it's like, because it's not a neighborhood. But I think too, it would be a lot harder if I wasn't my, shout out Hal for letting me borrow his car almost every day. Hal, my roommate, if I didn't have that, that'd be a lot more difficult. I can still take the train, and I do sometimes. But like if I had to do that every day, it'd be a bit of a struggle. And Neil, for example, he still lives close to IIT and things like that. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if I wasn't able to live in Sawmill, but I think it's just, I prefer to operate amongst other people than just like by myself.
Yeah, and I appreciated you made that decision because, I knew it wasn't like a given. I knew that it would totally make sense for a UChicago grad student to live in Hyde Park. I mean, And so it's inconvenient. But yeah, but there are also a lot of blessings that I'm sure you've experienced this past year from
Like 237's fridge.
Yeah, 237's fridge, So that's why those guys have to make sure it's well stocked. Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember the pain of that too. I when I was a new grad and I was doing my master's, I lived in Alameda, because a bunch of my friends were going to move there. And that's where a lot of our church community was living at the time. And I didn't have a car, but it was me. Well, I think my situation was a little easier than yours because if I took the bus, it would take me about an hour, a little over an hour. So that's not as bad as I think public transit for you can be almost 2 hours, right?
Yeah, it depends on if I'm able to time it.
Right, time it well, right, exactly, yeah. So I could do it in about an hour, but then I also happened to have a friend who was also in grad school, the same program as me, and taking all the same classes, and he had a car. Yeah, and then we had a third friend who was working as a lab researcher at the Berkeley campus at the time. So the three of us would carpool every day. We just treat it like work. We just go early in the morning, just do our DT there, stay all day, and then sometimes for a ride back, I would have to just catch a ride with some random someone, right? Because so he and I were in different ministry groups, so then it wouldn't line up necessarily. So then I just had to either bus back or just catch a ride with someone. So, but just got kind of used to doing that, and I kind of knew it was just for a year, so was able to manage. But yeah, but then the huge blessings of being able to more easily hang out with my friends and spend time together. Because on a grad student schedule, sometimes that's hard too. Yeah. Then the cost the other way would have been, I basically don't see anyone. Yeah. So you made the calculation there, and I think you saw blessing from your decision. So I'm thankful for that. So I want to talk about the fact that you became a member at our church. And you start to serve. Like, what are some of the differences that you've experienced? Like, I'm always so fascinated about this because I went through it. I went through being a student in our ministry, and then becoming a post grad, and joining college team, and becoming staff, and like that all of that. And so I'm just wondering from your perspective, like, what were some differences that you experienced as you made that transition?
Yeah, there were a lot. I think it's always interesting, I guess, from my perspective, just to sort of see how the sausage gets made. Because I guess when you're on the receiving end, going to Sunday service, or you're at an event, it feels weird to frame it this way, like the product that you get, or kind of sort of what you experience, it feels a lot simpler than actually what has to go into it, all the different planning meetings and work nights that have to go to figure out how you're going to do this and who's going to be there, especially with how we have co-vocational ministry and we've got parents with kids now, and so how does that plan, and who can be here when, and who can do this, and that sort of aspect. And then I think the biggest one is all the tech that goes into things. Can we just get a Bluetooth speaker and a laptop and plug it into the screen there? But the sort of the systems that we have to make sure there's not going to be any problems, and the stuff that we have that we know works, and we have our system and things like that. And I guess not appreciating all that went into that. And then I think to just being able to sort of be a part of that, and just realizing sort of the work that goes into it, and how much effort it actually takes. I think that is something that I don't know if it surprised me, because I'm sure if you asked me, it's like, oh, Luke, do you think it takes a lot of work to put on this event? I could be like, oh yeah, I'm sure it does, but you don't really get a grasp for it until you're actually a part of it.
Yeah. What do you think is a particular area that you feel like you've appreciated more because you've been on the making the sausage side of things, because you've had to do it yourself? What would be some areas that you've seen?
Dude, ProPre. Shout out ProPre. Yeah. So over the fall, I got trained by shout out Dr. J out in Elgin. Trained me in running ProPre, and that's kind of one of the thankless jobs. It's like someone who does CGI in a movie. You're doing your job well when nobody notices you.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and so it's I know it's weird there, but.
And people only look at the appropriate person when something goes wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. We're like, oh my gosh, that's so late. Oh, you messed up. Oh, you suck. But when it goes well, you're like, oh, Spirit of the Lord, I'm singing praise.
I did it right 99% of the time. I messed up one slide.
And then I'm the worst. But just the fact that there's there's got to be someone who not only is paying attention and advancing the lyrics. But then also I think the hard part too is there have been times where we're like, oh man, it's 10 minutes before service and I just found out what the song is. And the scan that they're singing is completely different from what I have there. And,
yeah. And what is a scan for people who don't know?
Yeah,
what is
so it's basically, I guess, sort of the order in which the songs will be sang. So like they're going to do the chorus now, then the verse, then the bridge, then chorus two.
Like how many times you repeat this phrase, stuff like that.
And sometimes like they'll cut out a whole chorus and be like, oh, where are we? Right.
Yeah.
And,
or sometimes they'll change it on the fly.
Yeah.
Without telling you.
That happened downtown with James a couple
James?
times.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's like the pro. So I mean, I don't even know if he has to practice at this point before going up on stage there. But it's like, I don't know, appreciating that. And then also there's more to ProPre than just lyrics. You import the lyrics, you format them, you do all that. And then you pick the video, but then also uploading videos. And there's like, got to format it for like the different announcements and putting those slides together and then running that. I mean,
a lot of file management. Making sure you have the right videos. And
it's a glorified like slideshow, except it's not glorified because you're not doing it for the glory. And then also it is more complicated than just a slideshow. But that's like one of those things that like I said, like you don't really notice if someone's doing it well.
Yeah.
And so I've been running that for our services down in Hyde Park as well.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing, like, they'll be like, Archie, like, okay, these are the songs, go in, load them beforehand. So we have enough time and stuff like that. That's the thing is, unless you've been part of a tech team at a church before, like you don't even think about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, who are some of the ProPre people that we should shout out right now that are actively serving?
Robin does ProPre.
Sheila does ProPre.
Yeah, Sheila.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Sherry's been being trained up. Jenna's being trained up. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who've gone before. Agape was the ProPre whiz for a long time for us.
Yeah.
And he trained many people. And then Marie did ProPre for a while.
Yeah. Nicholas, I don't know if he's ever ran it, but he's helped me with, different shortcuts.
He used to run that too. Yeah, so a lot of people have, ProPre is often like kind of when you first want to get trained up in tech, like that's often, because that's like almost always used. Like you might not always have a switcher, right? You don't necessarily need someone like doing lights all the time, but like at the bare minimum, we usually have a ProPre person for a lot of our events. So yeah, that's a very, very underappreciated role. So thank you to everyone who runs ProPre throughout our church. So that's an interesting insight, just what it takes to make the sausage. I like that metaphor. And so what is some like, I don't know, is there anything in terms of, so this is sort of like post-grad life / ministry, I guess, in terms of the topic, but what are the things that you, as an undergrad, maybe didn't, like maybe you were like frustrated at something or like, oh, how come it has to be this way? Things like that. Is there anything like that you've come to appreciate? Oh, this is why it's like this, because maybe it's because there's some trade-off, like, or something like that. Right. And so I wonder if there's been that kind of perspective shift at all.
Yeah. I think one of those is the shared schedule and just kind of like giving up to your time to the almighty one stop.
The almighty one stop.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, for people who don't know what the almighty one stop is, can you explain that?
So basically,
it's not actually called the almighty
no,
one
that's not what it's called.
It's just called the one stop.
Yeah, but it's basically just this Google sheet that basically just has the ministry schedule for the week and like what activities and what events are going on there. But one of the values that we have at our church, right, is just kind of committing to being, having this shared schedule and like, giving up of like your time to, help whether it's, ministry events or other things that are going on. And yeah, I think sometimes that's frustrating because like, I don't know, I'm like, oh man, like I want to do this or this, or, be a part of X, Y, or Z, or for example, like, like going to like, I talked about one thing I love about Chicago is like the sports, right? And so, like the big thing with like Cubs baseball is Sundays at 1:20 p.m., right? That's like the time like everyoun's there and it's the same day and everyone's hanging out. I'm like, man, can we do like a 9 a.m. service? Can we,
Yeah, for sure.
And so like things like that.
Yeah.
And I guess now too, as a post grad, like Saturdays for MBS, right? There's the members Bible study for the post grads, right? We drive up to Elgin for that, and so usually that takes the morning till like at the earliest like 1 o'clock, something like that.
By the time you get home, it's like 1:30.
Yeah, and so like that's set aside for Saturdays, or then but the past several months really, we've had stuff going on Saturdays, like course 201. We've got that from 2 to 8 this weekend. And so I think I'd be like, oh, man, can't like, but it's Saturday.
Yeah.
And so, but I think because, a part of it is just the stuff needs to get done, for like ministry planning, or, there'll be like work nights or things like that. People have jobs. So when are you going to plan for this event, and things like that. And like, as a student, I'd be like, oh, I want to hang out with the staff. I thought the staff were cool, that Stefan's dope. And so you'd be like, yo, hey, Stefan, I know you like the Bulls, the Warriors are playing. Oh, no, sorry, I got some. Be like, man, I thought you were my friend, man,
How come you don't want to hang out with me?
Yeah, which also, too, now as a post grad, I'm like, that the friend is not necessarily the dynamic you want to have with your mentor.
Yeah. Funny.
But yeah, so I think that was one thing that is still taking some adjustment. Like, for example, like a 6:45 a.m. DT every day.
That's rough for me still, man.
Yeah. But things like that, or I have like prayer meetings at night or stuff like that, in which I feel bad. But you're so unspiritual, you don't want to go to prayer meeting. But like Friday night, like that's, the night to like do stuff where like all your friends are free and there's just stuff going on. Not that I never would go to the bar thing. Even if I wasn't a Christian, it's so bad for your health. And so anyways, that's a whole nother tangent. I can talk about how even not Christians, you shouldn't go drink at the bars all the time because it's stupid. But anyways.
He said it, not me.
Yeah, I'll say it again. Luke, you could quote me on it. Luke Walker, even if you're not a Christian, drinking is stupid. Put that on a t-shirt, send that out.
Solid.
Yeah. But, sort of things like that, I think is one thing that, it's still kind of hard sometimes. And, if it was easy, every church would be doing it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I do. I do think that's one of the unique things about our church, which is like our mutual commitment to try to figure out how to synchronize our schedules together. So I think that's another way to think about it. Like, I think you called it like a shared schedule or shared calendar. And it's not so much that we like literally do everything all the time together. But there's like things that we need to synchronize. We need to like, because the fact of the matter is that no like 2-3 of us can put on the kind of Good Friday or Easter service that we're about to do next weekend. Like not this week, but next week, or I guess by the time this comes out, it'll be this weekend. But
Easter 2026.
Easter 2026. And so in order for us to pull off something that we think, hey, we're trying to get 200 people in the room. We're trying to make it a blessed time where people can experience God and hear from him. And we want people to get involved. Like it requires a bunch of us to, so that's a good example of it, because last 2 weeks, like, so this week and last week, we've had to have work nights on Wednesday, Thursday, and early on in those work nights, like we're like, hey, everyone come, because there's a lot of things to get done. Right. And so we kind of know, but then, we told people like, hey, but if you have something scheduled already, like you don't have to reschedule it. So just let us know you can't make it. So then we have a list of people who can make it. And from there, we can start divvying out tasks that need to be done. And then after each successive work night, the amount of work that needs to get done is lessened, right? Because we're getting stuff done. And then by the time like last night, there were maybe, I don't know, like 10, 12 people over at my house. Versus like the first day, it was like 20 something people, right? And so those 10, 12 people are the people who have the more complex projects. Like, for example, the music arrangement for the orchestra / choir / praise band that we're attempting. That still has a lot more work to do, right? And then unfortunately, there's only one person who can do that work, which is Percy. So he's going to just have to keep cranking at that, right? The rest of us, we can just, give him a shoulder massage and buy him some food, right? And so then the other kind of smaller, kind of more menial tasks that do need to get done, that got done. So then we can kind of free up people's times. But yeah, no, for sure. Like just this idea of, hey, together, if we work together, we can actually accomplish a lot more than any of us could have. And so, hey, how about we be a little bit more surrendered with our time so that we can attempt more together? I think that's where the heart behind it comes.
Yeah.
But some people find that hard. And I think it is hard. Yeah, I think it is hard. Like, so even, like you mentioned DT, right? It's like, man, do we have to gather at 6:45 a.m. for DT every morning? No, we don't. Like, we actually don't. Like, yeah. But then I think that the quality of how much we get out of God's word is a lot more because we gather together.
Yeah.
I think people are a lot more regular with DT because we gather together. And then the reason we do it at 6:45 a.m. is because some people need to get into work by 9 a.m. or 8:45 sometimes. And so some people have to leave Morton Grove by 7:20. And so we made the decision, because, we used to meet at 7. Ooh, 15 minutes more sleep. Oh my gosh, yeah. We used to meet at 7. But if it's 7, then those people would like come at 7, grab breakfast, and they're basically just doing DT for 10 minutes. I just felt like, oh man, it'd be nice if they could at least sit down for 30 minutes, you know, like sit down for 30 minutes. So that's why the decision we made was to go to 6:45 to accommodate for those handful of people who need to leave at like 7:20. So yeah, even decisions like that. So, okay, well, why does their commute have to affect the time I do DT? Right. But that's just kind of the decision that we chose to make, that, hey, we want to do it together. Yeah. So acknowledging that that's perhaps for some people, some of the harder aspects of our postgrad life, but also it's always two sides of the same coin, right? It's like, but it's also a blessing.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy that you guys threw yourself into that and joined that. That's what's crazy to me. Yeah. So you've been serving as a seagull in our ministry, or you were serving as a seagull, and then you took on I kind of made up this role, team apprentice, for people who wanted to join team next year, right? And so you've been sort of now kind of part of our team schedule. So basically, I think the biggest addition is that you join team meetings now. What's something about team meetings that has been surprising for you, or like, what do you enjoy about that? Yeah. Like, that's been kind of new, right, in the last few months. So tell me about that.
Yeah. I think, yeah, just kind of it's a furthering of that point of like, like seeing, the behind the scenes, how things get done. I think I'm just kind of always interested in those sorts of things. I mean, I feel too, like many a UChicago student, like you like to be like, part of a team and involved and getting stuff done. I think, for me, like, like wanting to be in like, like leadership positions or something like that. That's kind of always something that I've been naturally drawn to. And so like just this idea of, wanting to like, join Team Apprentice and get involved in that was just kind of something that just felt like, yeah, I want to do that. And I think what's been cool about team meeting, I guess, that I didn't necessarily expect, or one thing that I've liked is, I don't know, like you guys actually, value like our opinions and our takes pretty well, even though, me and Ola and Emerald are, much newer to, doing ministry and actually like boots on ground stuff. But, you're like, hey, like, what are your thoughts on this thing? What are your thoughts on that perspective? And just how, like, I guess I could see a world where it's just like you and Kata run the whole thing and this. Okay, here's how it's going to go out and do it. Yeah. But I think one thing, and I think it's because we're not like running a business or running a company, but we're running, ministry, and, it's about the word of God, and it's about relationships and loving others. It's cool to see how different decisions are made with so many different perspectives or ideas brought in. And then I think too, we really see that in just kind of the diversity of our group. I guess not racial diversity. Our staff is still very, very Asian. So it's nice to be, put it on for
the minority majority.
Yeah. For the one white guy there, but diversity in just terms of, personality or sure. like background or I don't know, like expertise or perspective on things like that. I know our church, and from what I've heard too, just Koreans in general are very big on like the personality tests and those types. But, I think, we see it reflected in just kind of the different types of people that we have. And so I think it's cool to see just that coming together to tackle a problem, and you don't fight this spiritual battle, fight against Satan. I think one thing that's been cool about team meeting as well is, seeing, like people come together to like just cook for everyone, and just how, that's a task that you maybe wouldn't think about, but, we've got, almost like, 40 people, 30 something people here. And it's,
including kids, it's like 50 people. Almost.
Right. Yeah. Like we got to eat. So, someone's got to cook, we can't cater every night. Yeah. Especially with this, like fitness challenge that some of the postgrads are doing as well.
That's a whole nother thing we could get into.
Yeah. I really got to lock in these next few weeks. Yeah. But just like, just seeing that and just people being willing to, I think I'm challenged in some ways too, because I'm like, I really don't want to do this. I do not feel like deboning chicken or cutting
that
out
Costco rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, I'm like, I really don't want to do this right now. But like everyone's doing it, and everyone's getting in that community, and just like people just being willing to just kind of do that and dive in. Like seeing people with master's degrees and 6-figure jobs, like I'm gonna stand here next to you and I'm gonna chop this cucumber right with you, brother, and that sort of mentality. And then another thing too, just like childcare now, like the baby boom that we've experienced at our Chicago church. And so just like wanting to let moms and dads still be involved in ministry, and oftentimes too, they're the more experienced ones are probably better suited to this certain task. And just because like you have a kid and the kid needs to get watched, like not making that be a barrier to being able to do things for the Lord, and just seeing how we're not like, hey, I'll watch your kids, I'll take care of them, change the diaper, hang out with them, and like for free. I think that's something too that I think I've really come to appreciate about our church that isn't necessarily the case for a lot of churches, but co-vocational ministry, we're doing this for free, and I've been on the receiving end of so many things like that as a broke grad student. We're just like like babysitters are expensive. Yeah, like I said, catering food all the time, like that's expensive, and doing all this stuff. But like, hey, we're gonna do it with our time and with our effort because we're part of this one community, this one body of Christ, with the same goal of just bringing the gospel to as many people as we can. And I think that's just been really cool to see. And I knew those things were going on in the background as a student, but like I've mentioned a couple of times already, to actually see it and be a part of it gives you a whole new appreciation and a whole new perspective on it.
Yeah, it's true. I think, when people think about like, hey, so what's like the most important couple hours in your week? Most people like, as a pastor, people would think like, oh, it must be Sunday service. But actually for me, it's not. So Sunday service is important, obviously, because it's a time when we gather to worship with our congregation. And it's sort of the way that people can kind of inroads into our community, right? Sort of the exterior facing gathering. But in my mind, actually, the most important time on my schedule is actually that Sunday afternoon to evening slot, which is when like a lot of the stuff you're describing is happening. So I guess for people who are not in Chicago, like and for our students too, like maybe you don't know, but around 4 o'clock, everyone comes to E-Loft, right? Like our entire staff team comes to E-Loft. And what's happening during that time is there's several things happening. Okay, so there's a special forces group of small people who specialize in our social media, and they have the specific skills to do that. So they have a meeting to make sure that our online presence is good. And then we have a meeting called the Pod Leads meetings that I lead with the people who are currently leading various ministry pods within our church. So that's our time to sync up. Now, a lot of those people have kids. So then there's a group of people that are doing childcare, and that rotates each week, right? The people who are watching the infants and the kids during that time. During that time also, we have Josh and Nancy who lead our international team. Because our pod leads meetings is just with the college ministry people. But then Will and Alex who lead Acts to Next, and then Josh and Nancy who lead international, we give them an hour and a half during that time to meet as a couple and to push forward any initiatives they need to push forward for their domains. They also have kids. So all those kids are being watched. Whoever's not doing any of that stuff is doing the food prep, basically. So you're on food prep for that week then. And so for me, so that is such a weird sight. It's like really hard to understand why this is happening. But for me, it is an expression. It's like the expression of some of the most core values of our church, all kind of happening at the same time. Yeah. And then partially the reason we do that is because once a week, I think it's really important for whichever group in your mind is the community that needs to be close. This is the core members of the church. I think it's important that once a week we break bread together, right? That we eat together. And so our expression of that is the Sunday night team dinner, right? Hey, these are all people here that are saying, hey, I'm committed to building this thing up and building up this church and doing ministry together. And so that group, I want them to be eating together once a week. And and sometimes it doesn't happen every time, right? Because there's different things that happen or different groups are gone, whatever. So it's not the whole group every week, but for the most part it is. And after that we have our team meeting, that usually goes until about 10 p.m. So it's a period of about 6 hours. And for me, those are the most significant 6 hours because that's where we fellowship. That's where we help each other. We express our servanthood and our love for each other in this kind of very concrete way. And that's when we get aligned. And then that time with the pod leads is really important because a lot of those, every week, moms and dads have to take turns going home during team meeting. So they can't even participate every week, right? Mm-hmm. And so anyways, there's all these considerations. And so I'm thankful that you experienced that as sort of getting to see firsthand what it takes to keep that staff group close and aligned, so that we can actually be a blessing, right? So that when we actually go onto the campus, we have something where we can say, hey, we invite you to be part of something real that's going on. We're not just making this up. We're actually living it out. Maybe we can just talk about UChicago ministry in particular, because that's what you've been involved in all year. And obviously you're still a student there. I mean, I feel like it's been tough. I feel like UChicago ministry has been tough. over the years. We've tried various things. I think it is a tough campus to do ministry at. But I've been really thankful that this year we've been able to keep pouring into it. One of the things we did this year was bring back Hyde Park service, which we didn't have last year because we were experimenting with downtown. But then obviously we also moved away from Hyde Park. We used to have 20 something people that lived in Hyde Park, but now we have 0. So how do you think that's been? Like, how has it been for you from your perspective doing ministry on the UChicago campus? I don't know. I don't know if you want to compare it to kind of what you experienced in the past. Maybe that's a little bit hard to measure, but kind of what are your thoughts on how UChicago ministry is going, and what are you grateful for as you think about that?
Yeah, no, it definitely has been a challenge and been unique changes. It's actually funny. Agape came back down from Elgin yesterday, and he was like at the Capital One Cafe, and he's like, "Oh, like, you know, come let's work." He's like, "But the Wi-Fi here sucks. Is there like a place on campus?" And then I went into like, how many? I went into Harper, Pratt, Hallowed, X-Lieb, Fairground. All of them were completely full. And there was not like a single table with like 2 open seats that we could sit at. And then he texted me, he's like, "Man, it would be nice to have Greenwood right now." And I was like, "Oh, man, it would be," right? So that was the I guess the ministry home is where you and Kata lived, and we had a couple units on that street.
We had 3 units right next to each other. It was a huge blessing during those years. Yeah.
And so like not being able to, I guess, have a place like that, I guess, has sort of made it less spontaneous, I think. And what that means is that you have to be a lot more intentional with ministry and things like that. And so I guess it's a little different from my perspective because I'm still going down to Hyde Park pretty much every day, but there's not like a place where I can like meet or do stuff with. Like, so like, you know, later today I'm going down and I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna be down there. Let me try to have lunch with a student. You know, I've got free time." But that's something that I've kind of got to like plan in more and plan into my day. And so that's definitely been a change as opposed to just like, you know, just show up to Greenwood or something like that. And I didn't necessarily do that all too often, but like, you know, I do it, you know, at least like once a week, come by as a student and, you know, something like that. And so I think that's definitely been a challenge, but because of that challenge and because it's forced, I think, me and then the team in general to be a lot more intentional. Like the other day, like Percy was down there meeting with students and things like that. I think each one of my interactions I do with a lot more care and a lot more thought behind that and a lot more, I guess, intentionality, because it's not like, you know, just a thing that like springs up or just like so casual, like, "Oh yeah, let's just, you know, grab a bite or something." Right. And I think I've seen, you know, how that's a benefit, just sort of my way of thinking when I'm sort of interacting with that ministry. So that's been something kind of two sides of that. Yeah, it's not able to do as much, but what you do being more focused and intentional with that. So that's definitely been one thing that I've just kind of liked about Chicago media, or just I've liked the intentionality that sort of forced me to have in my interactions and in my, I guess, just day to day, just, you know, talking with students or reaching out to people like, you know, students who are coming to our services and stuff.
Yeah. You know, well, so interestingly, some of that intentionality that would have needed to happen regardless of the situation. So that's one of the things that happens when you're not a student anymore.
Yeah.
And you become an outsider. I mean, I think in your case, you're a grad student, but still, like, you're not part of the college, right? And so you become de facto an outsider. And so from my experience of ministry, like, you regardless of where you live, you have to be more intentional. And that's actually one of the not talked about downsides of living so close to campus, which is that there's this psychological thing that happens where you feel like, well, I'm right there, so I can go anytime, and you actually end up not going. So that has happened in our ministries as well before. And so regardless of whether you're close or far, you do have to be super intentional about making time for students, meeting up with them, progressing people forward, making sure people understand that you're available. Now, having said that, it is way harder to have those spontaneous gatherings, though. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it's even just things like, let's say you have an event. And before, like, you imagine we would have like a welcome night at UChicago. Afterward, what would naturally happen? Everyone who helped out with that and the students who helped out would come back to Greenwood and we'd just hang out. You know, we'd clean up together, and then it'd just be like, whoa, and then, you know, and then we'd have the after party food, you know, like the real event after the event kind of food and hang out. But now that happens in Morton Grove. So if that happens in Morton Grove, there are no students coming to that because that means that from a staff, if you have to give rides, it's an 1.5 hour commitment.
Yeah.
I guess 2 hour commitment because you're going to drive back anyways. And then you have to go back and then drive them back or whatever. So it's like that becomes much harder to do. So I think definitely we've taken a loss in those kinds of things. And the fact that we don't have a regular space to meet and it costs money every time we have to meet, unless we can get a campus room, I guess, it does make it a little harder to have. It makes us think like, okay, is this reservation worth it? Like, do we know what we're doing here, or are we going to just spend another $500 and no one's going to come? So it makes us a little bit more hesitant, I think, to just try things. So I think we have to kind of battle around those things.
Yeah,
I think that's. But yeah. But I feel for the Hyde Park ministry. I said it on Dpod, but I think we're eventually going to move back. So yeah, I don't know. I can't see this as like. I don't see this being long-term sustainable. Yeah. So that's just personally how I feel about it. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, but man, I do think that our time in Morton Grove, like kind of combining the two teams together, it was necessary. Like we needed to get to a neutral ground where both Evanston and Hyde Park teams would kind of bond together as one new team under one leadership and see ourselves as one team together. So that, and I think that culture needs to be built so that if we ever do decide to move back to closer to campus or something like that, that those rhythms would have been well established. Yeah. So I think there's just my kind of thoughts on that. So as you think about greater kind of ministry opportunities and things like that this past year, getting involved in UChicago ministry, I guess it's not UChicago specific, but what's been a blessing for you? What's something you're grateful for as you think about taking on more ministry this past year?
Yeah, I think, when I think about, having done, like Seagull stuff, the small group that Ola and I ran together at UChicago in the fall, and now we're doing Nobleman, right? And just like you mentioned, various ministry stuff. I think it's led to me, I guess, paying attention more in a strange way. So, for example, for the small group, our content for the week would be based on the Sunday message. And so from that, obviously, I guess I don't know if it's obviously, but like a lot of people at our church, I've been taking notes during the sermons since like sophomore year or something like that. And so, but then, I'm actually making sure to go back and review them. And okay, how can I take this out of, the message that we heard, and, what are some other questions I can bring from that? And so there's that aspect. And then just spending a lot more time in the Word, as Bible is very clear about, if you're someone who is in a leadership position or teaching the Word or doing, I guess our application is doing ministry, right? There's harsher judgments for those people when it comes to handling the Word of God.
Yeah.
And wanting to rightfully handle the word of truth. And so because of that, I've found myself just spending a lot more time in Scripture, spending a lot more time in prayer. And I don't know, I feel like everyone, all Christians kind of always talk about, oh yeah, I need to spend more time in the Word, I need to spend more time in prayer. But I guess being forced to, in a sense, it's actually led to, practically doing that. Because I feel like, I don't know, even now, everyone can always spend more time reading God's Word. Everyone can always spend more time praying. I think anyone's ever like, oh man, I spend too much time reading the Bible. I spend too much time praying. I gotta do less of that. But I think because going from student to post grad, and then also not just being a new grad, but trying to actively have I don't know if larger, but an active role in ministry. I think has made me kind of forced me to kind of forge those spiritual disciplines in a more spearheaded, bad analogy with the forgery. I stuck myself there, but just kind of crafting those, I guess, in a sense. Yeah, that's a better word. And I think I've seen a lot of benefit in that, just in spending more time in God's Word outside of DT, but in preparing for things, and with Nobleman, like our weekly calls, but then also too, I'm like, I'm meeting with the student and they have this question, and so, oh man, like I don't know, let me read up on this and find some commentary so I can give you an answer next time, and that sort of thing. As opposed to, as a student, I'm just the one asking the questions, and it's funny too, there are times like I notice, like, the student that I'm meeting with, they'll ask me a question, I'm like, oh dude, I had that exact same question, and like TOE for Stephen or DP, they told me the answer to it, and I was like, okay, cool, that's awesome. And I totally was able to sit right with my mind, okay, I'm good. And I completely forgot what that answer was. Yeah. And so just, going back then and, like talking to, those who are older than me who can, give me advice on how to, talk about a certain area or a certain topic or something like that. I think that's been something that, just general ministry, and going from us being, I still am poured into a lot, but now as a postgrad doing more of the pouring out into students, as I've done that, I kind of assumed that as I poured out more, like I'd feel more empty, but in order to pour out, you need to have stuff to give, right? And so in order to do that, I've been just spending more time in those disciplines. And I think every Christian will tell you, the more you spend time in God's word, the more you pray, you're going to start to see the benefits of that.
Yeah, for sure. How about you do a quick round of shout outs to maybe someone who's mentored you this past year, someone who you've mentored, and then a friend.
Okay.
Just something you're grateful for each of them. And you just got to stick with one person, because once you start listing, then it gets dramatic. Then you might leave someone out. So I'm just saving you, man.
Okay.
Just gotta just choose one.
Well, no, it's hard because there's two that have poured into me, but if I have to pick one,
you just gotta go with one. Just go with one.
Okay, just because we had I asked advice from him more recently. I'm gonna say Toph. Shout out to Toph.
Okay. Yeah.
For answering questions that I've had. Giving me various advice. Recently, all these people are getting engaged and married, and so I was just asking Toph about advice in that arena, and so he's actually given me a lot of wisdom there that has actually been not different, but different perspectives.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, just growing in my role just as a minister, and then doing the Hyde Park service. He's been preaching there and sort of leading that group along with Percy and Elaine, and so just hearing from him, getting advice from him about how to do various things, doing ministry, reaching out with, connecting with students, that sort of thing.
That's good.
Someone I've been pouring into that I'd like to give a shout out to. Okay, I guess the guy I've been referencing often, Corey. The student I'm getting lunch with. I'm getting lunch with Corey. So it's been cool. Freshman at UChicago. Go Maroons. Yeah. So I flyered to him back in the fall, like randomly, like. I remember the moment when it happened, because he's a pretty tall guy, curly hair, glasses, pretty distinct dude. But I remember it was me, Nicholas, and Jeanette, and they were like standing on the corner, like calling something, like, "Hey, are we gonna finish right now?" And we were just kind of like standing there, like waiting for what the call was. And he was just walking by, and I was like, "Hey, take this flyer." And then now he's been one of our regular students this year in Nobleman with us. He was in the small group, and so it's been really cool. He's given me lots of hard questions, but I've appreciated that, because it's, like I said, made me spend more time on the word. Grow my knowledge in order to tell him the truth and not make something up.
Nothing like having to teach someone something to make you learn it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then I guess a friend who I've been going along with, I got to shout out Ola. We were leading the small group together in the fall. So, we'd take turns. Okay, you're going to plan like the snacks or whatever. You'll do the questions for the week, switching on that. And then, he lives up on the north side of the city, and he'd come down to Hyde Park, and then also he went to IIT, so there's not even really necessarily a connection to Hyde Park, but really appreciative of that and just his fellowship and co-laboring through that in the fall, and lots of great car rides, giving him a ride back to his place. But even now, in Nobleman together, we sort of were as team apprentices, we're sort of tasked with like getting the food every week for that, and so that was always fun, like, shoot, it's Tuesday, Nobleman's tomorrow, what do we want to do? Pizza? Okay, let's do pizza.
Nice.
We did Domino's, let's do Papa John's.
Vary it up.
Yeah. We have gone to other places. There is a list. There's like a sheet that we have. But, doing that, and then, just being, the young pros in team meeting each week. Yeah, and, him coming over and staying in Sawmill. And then also, too, just ways we've also challenged each other. Yeah, he's challenged my assumptions, and, we've had, like conversations about certain things, like, how should we approach this, or like this aspect of just like living Christian life or things like that. We come from pretty different backgrounds. He grew up in Nigeria, engineering guy, that whole STEM way, and I'm this dude from California who likes the humanities. Pretty distinct when you look at it that way. And so I've appreciated his different perspective, and I think in doing ministry together, I really feel this brother connection, this co-laborer in Christ. I've really been appreciative of that connection this year. And how it's grown and changed from when we were students, just kind of like buddies hanging out. We still have that, but then it feels like more so this mission that we're working towards together.
Nice. Yeah, that's fun. This is something new I'm going to try, which is I'm going to do a lightning round of questions. Okay, so you just got to give a short answer to each of these.
Okay, right? That'll be hard because I love to
All right, okay, here we go. So earlier you talked about going over to 237, stealing their food, but if you have to buy a meal, best cheap meal near UChicago on student budget.
Cheap meal near UChicago, student budget. A Flash Hernandez taco truck, you get a quesadilla for less than $5.
Oh, Awesome. That's one of those ones on Ellis?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Best cheap meal near Morton Grove on grad school budget.
Cheap meal near Morton Grove. It was Amazon Fresh Pizza.
Oh,
but they left us sadly.
I mean, they just shut the whole thing down.
I guess, yeah.
It wasn't
nationwide,
personal.
Yeah, it wasn't personal.
Yeah.
If you can get down to Red Hot Ranch, which is a short drive.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Red Hot Ranch, Oberweis, that combo.
Oh, it's solid. Yeah.
Kind of like an In-N-Out dupe burger. Like it's the closest equivalent I've found.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah. All right. What's one thing that as a freshman in college you thought you would have figured out by now that you don't have figured out?
Oh, dude.
It's kind of a hard question, actually.
Who my wife's gonna be. That was,
okay, I like that.
My mom was 20, my dad was 24 when they were married.
Yeah, what are you doing with your life, man? Come on.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice. One word to describe the smell at Sawmill when you wake up on a Saturday morning.
Smell at Sawmill when I wake up
at your apartment, I guess.
Apartment.
Oh gosh, I don't know why I asked this.
Winter candy apple wallflower from Bath and Body Works.
Oh, really?
I've been very intentional about de-broifying.
Oh,
you got a bunch of bros in it. It'll smell like butts.
I was not expecting that answer.
That's actually one thing I've been very intentional about.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I'm very surprised. All right. What song has been a soundtrack for your transition from undergrad to grad student, or undergrad to postgrad, I guess?
Redemption song was the Holy, Holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come.
Nice.
No, it's not Revelation song. Oh, Revelation song.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Revelation song. I just spend lots of car rides where I'm just like singing that out at full volume. Yeah, I put that on repeat a lot. I don't know why, but that's one song. It's like I knew it as a kid, and now I've been playing it a lot recently.
Yeah. And then what's a piece of advice you'd give your senior yourself?
Get the reps in. I think the temptation that I fell into senior year was like, oh, it's senior year, it's my last time to like relax and not, having like, okay, maybe like do that for a little bit, but that's not going to serve you any well in the future and in your life afterwards to just kind of take that time to be because like, oh, it's my last time I'm being free. It's like, yeah, it's your last time being free. Like do stuff while you can.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Do you have any questions for me before we wrap up? Usually give people a chance to ask one or two questions.
Yeah. I have loved the baby boom here in Chicago and always love, hanging out with the kids, playing with them, playing with the babies. Though interestingly, I don't really feel like I would like youth ministry. Anyways, do you have any advice on how to, I guess, be a good, like a good Uncle Luke, someone they can, have fun to, but also like Lucas is getting older, Ethan and Evan, being a good role model for them in terms of like the older, I guess, brother at our church relationship.
Well, I feel like I don't know if there's a monolithic answer to that. I feel like people do need to be true to like your personality because I feel like you're like one of the fun uncles. You're the one who's willing to play games with them and give them shoulder ride and run around, and like stuff like that, right? And so I think they really, really enjoy that. I think they need a variety of uncles and aunties that they interact with, So I feel like leaning into that, but just being mindful of, and I think this is sort of, again, this is not monolithic because I think what I'm about to say, it's sort of sometimes in phases, but sometimes there's like aspects of our children's growth, their character, the kind of people we want them to become that we're working on at any given time. And so sometimes the parents might even communicate that out to people. Hey, it would really help if, let's say, right now we're trying to work on so-and-so's, not throwing a tantrum when they have to stop playing or something like that. And so if you know that, then and trying to figure out, okay, in your context, like when do I experience that? Like what have I seen that? Like, and how can I be part of the kind of, hey, you can't do that, like being willing to be the stern uncle, like when that boundary gets crossed or whatever it is that we're working on, right? So I think being able to be flexible and kind of stepping into those roles when needed, I think is probably really helpful and appreciated. Because I think our parents, they feel really grateful just constantly because I think so much of the burdens of raising our children are shared, right? Are shared because we're in community a lot, and our kids love it. Like they just love when uncles and aunties are over and they get to play with them and just talk with them. And so I don't know. I don't think there's like, I just feel like each person brings their thing. And I feel like that's part of the ecosystem in which they're growing up. So then the only other thing would be like just these specific things when they come up, like just being willing to bend to the parents' wishes or desires or kind of requests. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, there's been like times before I'm like playing with kids and like they're climbing on me and the mom goes like, hey, no, Uncle's not a jungle gym. I'm like, oh shoot, I did not get him in trouble for that. And then maybe you wanted me to. Yeah. Like especially Elgin with all the kids there. And I'm like, oh, my bad. Like, sorry, that's my fault. I was playing with, like, I riled him up.
Yeah. And that part of that is, again, just kind of learning from that and saying, oh, okay, in this context, okay, this is a value. Like, because that value might be different from how you grew up, for example, right? Okay, hey, we're trying to teach the kids that, because for that example, right, there are times where I want the kids to know, hey, I can be rowdy and I can go crazy. And there's times where they need to know how to control themselves. And that's just true for life. And so again, that's like a character thing that we're trying to teach them. So if we're indoors, if we're like eating or something like that, like that's not the time to be rowdy, right? But when we're outdoors and they just want to sit on the bench, there's something wrong with that too, right? Like you should go crazy when you're outdoors and you have all this space where you can run around, like run around, dude. Like, right. So kind of just learning what the values of that community are. And I think this is also, again, like different. It works out differently amongst different parents even. I think the values are not necessarily monolithic across or universal across. So just kind of being able to contextualize, I think, is important. So then like even like for us, like, because, I mean, we don't have a lot of people around our age. Like for us, it's like Will and Alex and things like that. Like we would have conversations just to make sure we're on the same page about, hey, like, do you want us to help discipline? Like, because we don't want to assume like, hey, they're okay with us like telling their kids something, right? But if we have that mutual understanding, like, oh no, hey, you just treat them like you're their like blood aunt, blood uncle, and just it's okay. Like we give you permission to do that. Then we feel a lot more permission to, hey, you shouldn't do that, whatever, and like kind of even just help discipline them verbally. So those are all things that kind of just need to get worked out. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, NTO is coming up in Memorial Day weekend. Yes, which I'm bummed about because we'll miss the Memorial Day trip.
I know. That's the sacrifice for the new team every year.
Yeah,
you missed the Memorial Day trip.
Yeah. And so people have told me, as I've mentioned, asking questions about taking measures, like, hey, at NTO, you could, meet someone or something like that. What advice would you give me in that area to, put the best foot forward, but also still, I could very easily see myself getting distracted in that regard and being a little performative and, not focusing in on what's actually important and things like that. So do you have any advice on what I can do to prepare my mindset for that because, that is an opportunity to, meet people, but also to make sure that that's not my primary motive.
Dude, I don't know what to tell you, man. I do think that just reminding yourself, hey, so I'm there to figure out, hey, what does it mean to be on team? What does it mean to be a Christian living out Christian life in our context, in our church, like that's where you're going. And so reminding yourself of that, right? And maybe just committing like, hey, when I'm in the sessions, I'm gonna be locked in. I'm gonna be locked in. I'm gonna give it my all. I'm gonna try to take as much away from this as possible, right? While acknowledging that, and sometimes I think that married people forget this. I was reminded of this from a podcast I was listening to about dating. How basically like 90% of your mental bandwidth before you get married is about marriage. Like no, and then when someone said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's totally true. That's totally true. Like you can't think about anything else. I was like, that's why like I'm like, singles like I feel like they have so much time on their hands, but like why are they so not productive? I mean, it's because like 90% of your time you're worrying about the future marriage or whatever. Like who am I gonna get married to? Oh, and then every interaction is like strife with drama because of that. So right when I heard that, I was able to recall those feelings. So just being realistic that, I mean, hey, that's understandable, right? So then, I don't know what you can do though, because you're going to be who you are too, right? So, I don't think you should like try to change your behavior so much, right? So much, get a haircut, trim your beard a little bit, just, make sure you look sharp.
get a pump in before day one, or put some weight.
Yeah. No, but I think just I mean, I think, you're extroverted, so you won't have too much hard time with this, but just being friendly and just get to know as many people as possible. That's probably the way around it, which is like, so get rid of the myth that you're going to see someone and you're just going to know. Yeah. Like there's going to be like, oh, and like you just like, that's probably not going to happen. Yeah. Revelation song. But no, just go in with the mentality that, hey, part of this time is to connect with people and to get to know people. Right. And so just be friendly and open to anyone that you meet, and don't get overly attached to any particular person during that time. Right. And so, and so like, don't like, I don't know, don't like constantly be sitting with like Ola and like those same dudes. Look, I think just from the perspective of like, well, I see those guys all the time. Like I really should use this time to connect with as many people as possible, build friendships. Both with guys and with gals. And I feel like if you approach it that way, then the outcome will probably end up being better. So, I don't know if that helps, but that's sort of what comes to mind.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think that's pretty practical advice.
Yeah. Nice. Anything else?
Speaking of Ola, I don't know if you've heard about our deal that we have, but back in, I guess this was August, there, for some reason, now Joel, his wedding's only a couple weeks away, but we were having a conversation and it was like, it was me, Joel, and Ola. We were outside like some IIT event that we were doing, like Sticks and Bricks.
Yeah.
And we were like talking about, future relationships and stuff. And I got brought up, I was like, hey, I could see Joel getting married within the next couple of years. Like, yeah, within 2 years, I could see that, Sure enough, it's sooner than that.
Yeah.
But then Ola asked like, oh, what about me? And I said, I like 6 years. Cause he's younger than, at that point he was still 20. It was probably the way I said it, but it really struck a chord to me. He was super face like, what? How could you? That's so insulting. And so we made a deal that if he got married within 2 years from that point, so sometime in August 2027, that at his wedding, I would, as a gift, I'd give him $1,000 cash. And that if he did not get married at that point, by the time I got married, whenever that would maybe, he would have to give me $1,000 cash, and we signed in on that. But now what Ola keeps saying is, I think he's realized that was an unrealistic timeline for him to get married. So he keeps saying, Luke, I think we are called to singleness. I think we, because it doesn't matter if he doesn't feel it. If I never get married, he doesn't have to pay. But it kind of got me thinking like, oh man, am I thinking about this too much and putting too much mental back? And in a certain point, you can't help it. Especially when your roommates get engaged on the same day, and I helped Howard Jedford take like some photos for their wedding website last night. All this, it's happening all around here in Chicago.
For sure.
And so advice on to, one thing we talked about in Nobleman was, you want to trust in God's timing with things like that. But at the same time, trusting in God's timing does not equal passivity.
Yeah.
And so how to balance that while also at the same time not trying to rush things or doing them for like the sake of because I want to or because like people around me are, and then also still wanting to maximize, like this time where I'm still only really accountable for myself, right? There's not a family I have to worry about yet.
Yeah.
Balancing those two, if you have any advice in that area for me or all my other peers or younger listening bros, I'm trying to be your advocate.
Man, I'll just give my gut response, which is I think that if when I first graduated, first couple of years out of college, I actually didn't really want to date. I knew I wanted to date at some point and I knew I wanted to get married, but I actually was having a lot of fun with my friends. Ministry was a blast and it was challenging. I felt like I was growing a lot. I was finishing grad school, and then after that, so my second year out, I was working professionally for the first time, and so wanted to figure that out. And so there was a lot of ways in which I was growing and progressing as a person, progressing spiritually. And so while I felt the desire of eventually to get married, and all those thoughts, the 90% of your bandwidth that's taken up, while that was still true to some degree, there was actually not that strong of a desire in me to start dating, because I felt like I knew that if I started dating, it would take up a significant chunk of my time. And I felt like I really was enjoying the amount of growth I was experiencing in my life. It was after I finished, I think, my second year, and I was in my third year of ministry. So at that time, I would have been about 23 or 24. I felt the market shift inside of me that felt like, okay, I think I want to date now. I don't know exactly how to describe that, aside from the fact that I think my desire actually changed. And so that's when I started seriously thinking more about it. So I guess, I mean, it's not like my experience is the answer, but if I extrapolate from that, I guess if someone's like, I don't know, like I do feel like, so I still give this advice to people, right? Like even to undergrads, like, you know, I tell people, hey, if you can wait, I feel like it's good to just wait, you know, like no rush. There's a lot that you have to grow in still, right? And you should you should use your time well. And so there's no rush. That is the advice that I want to give to most people. And there's upsides and downsides to getting married super early, right? So, but at the same time, like let's say you can be financially independent. You know, you're gonna have a job and you're going to be dependent from your parents financially and things like that. And so you actually have the capability of starting your own household. Like, and hey, if you want to date at that point, like you should date. I don't know. Like, I just feel like the biggest thing for me is we'll just involve people in the dating process. Like in terms of, man, make sure you're talking to mentors, make sure you're talking to people that you trust, that can give you advice, keep you accountable. Because it is fraught with danger. I mean, spiritual danger, that whole period. And so I would just say, just make sure you're talking about it, being open and get advice. But I think, I don't know. It's hard for me to generalize. I just think if you're that desperate to get married, so I don't know how else to put this. Like you should just date, right? Yeah. And the thing is, just because you want to date doesn't mean there's someone who wants to date you. So some of that will just be open door, closed door based on who you ask and whether they're interested in you.
That's a good line. That could be like an Instagram infographic post.
Yeah. So I feel like, I mean, instead of wondering, why don't you just ask? It might actually be that you don't have any open doors right now, right? So, right? So the Lord will tell you through that, I guess. Right? Yeah, because a no is also an answer to prayer. So, Lord, no. Okay. So I guess that's just practically what it comes down to. I just feel like if you're in a place where you can get married and you really, really want to start dating, you should start dating. You should. Yeah, but make sure you do it in a godly way. Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. So I guess it's from that then, if you feel like, oh man, like I feel like there's still some steps I need to take before I can do that. And I haven't started my job yet. Financially, that's kind of the big thing that I'm still thinking about. But do you have any advice on the mindset where like, okay, I want this, but I know that I'm not ready yet? Do you have any advice on how to manage that?
Yeah, I think you should just have some concrete goals. Like, so why do you not feel ready yet? And what would make you feel ready? Right. And for that kind of thing, I think if you can't come up with that yourself, that's the kind of thing that it'd be good to get coached on. Yeah. Just have someone who can coach you through it. Because they might not be able to answer for you either, but they can at least ask you some good questions to get you thinking in the right direction. So that's probably what I'd recommend. Yeah. All right. I think that's what we got time for.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, Luke. Any final words you want to say to the pod before we wrap things up?
As always, go Maroons. I'm wearing my UChicago UChicago merch right now. If you want merch when I start working there, let me know. They're gonna my boss asked me for my quarter zip size already, so apparently they're sending me something.
Yo, dude, that's awesome. Mail,
so go Maroons.
Go Maroons.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, DP.
Nice, thanks. All right, thanks for joining us for another episode of D-Pod. We'll continue our new grad series. See you guys later. Bye-bye.